I always find a way to say, okay, what's an alternative? What's another solution? Because that's what we get hired to do, is to solve a problem for these folks. So anybody and everybody always has a problem. They want somebody else to solve it. We get paid to do that.
This is Curb Appeal, a podcast for real estate professionals who are looking to build out their business and get more deals done. In each episode, we uncover what is and isn't working when it comes to scaling in the industry. Listen in and get actionable steps to grow your real estate brand, attract more business, and expand your footprint in the industry. Okay, let's get started.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Curb Appeal. I am so excited to have you all here today. My name is Rachel Gombosch, and I am your host. And today I am here with Tony Farah of the Tony Farah Group, the leading real estate team for family relocation and families with special needs, and top 1% Coldwell Banker Realtor in the Twin Cities metro area. Tony, how are you doing today?
Fabulous. Happy Monday to you, Rachel, and happy Monday to all your listeners.
Yes, happy Monday, and what an awesome Monday it is. We have such an amazing episode to go through today. We are talking on unique selling propositions, and Tony, you have a fabulous one, and we're just going to get honestly right into it because we have a lot of information to cover. So Tony, why don't you go ahead and just tell me, why do you believe real estate professionals struggle or maybe even hesitate to develop a unique selling proposition?
Well, let's just go to the basic, right? The fact that we have real estate has no barriers to entry, so anybody can go in. But at the same time, it's got one of the highest failure rates at 87%. Honestly, I feel like agents don't do their homework ahead of time, and they don't really take the time to understand their true identity, do a soul search, determine, why they want to get into that business to begin with. Anybody can get in, they sell their moms and pops and cousins, and then they stumble. And, when they don't have a plan to really what's going to carry them to the next level, I feel like they get excited in the beginning. It's not a challenge in the beginning, but the challenge is, how do you take it to the next level? It could be fear. It could be lack of resources. It could be lack of true identity, and what gets them into the real estate to begin with. So to me, right, it was a no-brainer. 6.5 months into it, and I'm taking you back to like 2015 right now, but yeah. 6 months into it, and I'm like, how am I going to compete with the number of thousands of agents in the Twin Cities? And when we're talking Twin Cities, we're talking like a 7-county metro. And, right. And it was a challenge. There's no question about it. And when I sat down on my knees and I said, I need to do a soul search. I need to determine who I am, who I want to be, and where do I want to go. And it was quite the exercise, honestly. So, yeah, but I feel like it's fear, lack of resources, and really not determining or defining their true identity. I think these are the big three that comes to mind.
Yeah. And I think a good point that you brought up is that a unique selling proposition really is developing your why of why you're in real estate.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what's going to carry these agents throughout their entire careers. If you're not developing that why of what is bringing you into the industry, then what is it that's carrying you through all the ups and downs and ebbs and flows? Because we know that the market is not always steady. It's always up and down and around.
Totally.
And so agents need to develop something that's really stronghold in connecting them to a higher purpose and why they're selling real estate and why they're reaching out to specific clients. So you brought up a really good point there.
Let's take it a deeper than the why. If we take it a deeper than the why, what inspires me to wake up every day is my son with needs, right? So, having that one of me kind of like inspired me to kind of push forward and say, hey, there's nobody out there that's really taken that to the next level. So wake up every day and do it. So I totally agree. What is your why? And people need to really take the deep dive to really uncover that. Great point there.
Right. And let's go into your why a little bit. And what was your process behind developing and tailoring your niche and your why and your unique selling proposition into specifically the special needs families. What brought you there?
Well, when we joined the autism community, and that was back in 2007, 2008, I started creating this community. I joined a task force of other parents, thinking that we can make a change at the capital level, meeting with legislatives and try to really bring both parties together. It started there. It started building that network of total strangers, but yet we have that commonality of special need. We have that commonality of autism. We understood each other. And then fast forward, when I got into real estate, it was an easy jump for me to say, hey, you know what? I could make this my specialty. I need to obviously understand who I'm dealing with. That's why I got certified to work with severe children with sensory challenges. And it's profound when you listen to it. Severe children with sensory challenges, every kid is different, every case is different, but having a general understanding of that, many episodes that can really transpire from these different behaviors really gave me that edge. And to me, it was a no-brainer. And that's when I kind of I went from this way until, and let's just go down. That was an awakening call. And that was a wake-up call too, to say, okay, let's take it to the next level. To me it's just so rewarding and where I was and how it started and to where I am today and the impact I've had along the way. And if it wasn't for my son's diagnosis with autism, I would have never built those relationships with these communities outside. If it wasn't for his diagnosis, I would not be standing and sharing with you a firsthand experience, what it takes to really move a family from point A to point B, and then everything that goes in between. And, we could definitely talk about my own family and moving my own family during a pandemic and having to really apply every one of these tactics to my own family has really given me that confidence to say, if I can do it with my own family, guess what? And I could do it with just anybody, basically.
Yeah. And let's get into that a little bit more. So how has having a special needs son in your life changed your thinking and your approach to selling real estate?
Yeah, the old saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? And to me, it was, how can I provide, how can I share goodness, to the community? How can I stay upbeat? And I had a choice. I could, having a child with special needs demands a lot of time, demands a lot of patience, demands a lot of sacrifice. And being a parent, being a husband, and being a dad to two boys, kind of requires that balance in life, right? So I've always used the analogy of the old scale, where you would add half a pound to the right, and then until you get that balance, and then you have to add 2 pounds to the left scale to kind of balance it. And I've always used that. And my two choices were, I either do something about it or I become a miserable person at the end. And to me, it was just a no-brainer. What is it that I could do to deal with it? How can I provide to my family? And how can I still be there as a resource, as a source to my family, while providing to, bread and butter on the table? So it was kind of like a combination. And to me is, let me share that goodness. Let me share what's working with my family, because a lot of times people are kind of reserved, they don't want to talk about their challenges day in and day out. But to me, it was an opportunity to say, hey, let me share with you how we got here, where we were, and what are some of the challenges that we've gone along with, from a special diet to trauma to seizures to autism and wandering. They're just best friends, just to name a few. And that have put other families at ease, knowing that, oh my God, this guy walks in our shoes. This guy understands the complex life that we live. I walk into houses they're not even ready to show, but I'm able to see behind it just because I've been there myself. So to me, it's a combination of seeing the world from his angle and to help me understand how many of the other community, many of the other populations that live our life are kind of living and seeing it. So kind of like a 3D vision. We're tapping into virtual products right now, right? But
Yeah.
you see in the 3D and you kind of like connect, you find that commonality between these families. And that by itself is just a true inspiration that I got from my own son. If it wasn't for his diagnosis, if it wasn't for his autism, I don't know that I'd be doing this today. I'd probably be still doing my retail executive job, basically. So,
Yeah. And let's get into, you brought up some really awesome points in that last response. And I want to dig into them a little bit more about developing not only a unique selling proposition doesn't just necessarily mean identifying maybe an issue that you see within the industry or a gap that you see within the industry that you are desiring to fill, but additionally taking the time to really understand your audience and taking that next step to understanding your audience. So it's not like you're just going into, or you're not just reaching out to these families who also have maybe children with special needs and saying, I'm going to assist you in the home selling process. But the point you brought up of saying, I go into homes that aren't even ready to show, but I can already switch my brain and know how to address issues that they're going to bring up, that they're going to think and see, and they're going to bring to light. I already know how to answer those problems for them because one, I have firsthand experience. I have a son who's got special needs. So I've dealt with those issues myself. But then two, it's almost this, you're doing your job in the sense of you're easing the struggles of what's already an extremely stressful process for them. And so let's dig into that a little bit more about some of those struggles that maybe in your particular niche families have with special needs, of what can be issues during this home selling process. And that way our audience can really see, like, what are the steps you're taking to understand your audience and actually help them and assist them in what it means to take it that next step further in the home buying, home selling process.
Well, absolutely. I mean, great questions. You've covered a lot. There's a lot to unpack there, but I feel like the shame, embarrassments, not ready, these are all kind of hovering in these families' minds. And my job is to take that pressure, take the stress. I always tell my clients, hey, let me take the pressure off of you. Throw it at me, and then I'll be able to at least handle it. Let me have you worry about your families, the kids, and how we can really process this whole thing together as a team, obviously, right? So to me, it was an opportunity not just to connect with mom and dad. And to me, my process is so straightforward because I wanted to involve the whole group. The whole group, I mean, I want the kids to be involved. And, getting that certification to work with children to understand where their struggles are and how I could really soothe that process for them has provided me an opportunity to connect with the kids in many different ways. One is, I could just showcase the storybooks, right? I may be jumping ahead, but the storybooks, on the front right here of the cover for the listeners, we have the title, it's called What We're Moving. And then we have the child kind of opening up wide his arms out of a window, screaming, oh my God. And then the parents on the bottom kind of looking up with that scary face, kind of like, and then you've got by Tony Farah. And then if you flip open the pages, you've got nothing but illustrations, because I want to connect with the child. That's my main goal, is to connect with the child regardless of their age. Because to me, it's, if I connect with them, it takes a lot of pressure from the parents. And then it works. Every case is different. I get it, but it has not failed me yet. And I'm super proud to say that I'm on my third book right now. So writing the third story book, besides the buying and the selling process, the third book talks about how to keep our children safe during and post the move, which is very, very important. Another point, very important, that I really want to mention is part of my certification is the way I understand kids is how can I keep them busy? So I come in with a
Oh my gosh.
with a gift for the kids. And this is, I'm holding here a sensory basket. Okay, what is a sensory basket? A sensory basket holds like fidgets. It could be the puzzle piece that I have, which is like a de-stressor ball, but it's in the shape of a puzzle. But it could be a small clock. And that simple clock will provide activities for the child. And then all I have to say, I say, okay, kiddo, we're going to just be with mom and dad for 10 minutes. And then I'll time it for 10 minutes. And they're holding on to that clock. And it's just a gold mine, right? I'm like waiting for that 10 minutes to
Yeah.
be off. So, and that's all I need sometimes. It's just little tricks like that to really get inside their head. And, and that comes from firsthand experience. That comes from doing it over and over again. That comes from really that trust that these families have put in me. In our business, people will do and will transact with realtors that they know, like, and trust. I feel like I've jumped to the trust factor right away once I've discovered my niche in this real estate space. And that is to really be the go-to realtor for families with special needs. So to me, it's very rewarding and it's fulfilling to be able to really pour out that unique selling proposition and make it more of an added value than anything else, right? So
Right.
the selling part comes after it. Once you connect, once you really deliver that value through these many different tactics that I just showed you and just talked about, I think that elevates my presentation, to these families. And they're like, where do I sign?
Right. Well, and I love too that like you have developed tools in your toolkit that one are just so incredibly creative, but two can also be used outside of just real estate. I mean, these families will be able to use these books and these resources that you're providing to them for anytime they move, anytime they have big transitions. They'll be able to look back on this series, which really is adapted around like a huge transition in life that may be difficult for someone with special needs, where it's hard for them to move from one home to the next. It's a major change. And they'll be able to pull on these resources that you've created for them. And I think that really speaks to your niche, and your unique selling proposition goes outside of just real estate. And I think you really need to connect to something that is genuinely something that's like heartfelt. It's something you feel, it's something you've experienced, it's a passion of yours. And it's something that is with you for the long run. And I think that's awesome that you've been able to develop these resources behind what you're doing. I mean, even just the sensory kit, like you could have just given a toy basket, right? Like you think kids, okay, here's a toy basket, but taking it one step further of this is the child's needs while I'm showing the home to the parents, is I need to streamline them down so that their senses aren't as overwhelmed, they're not as jarred, and let's get them to just focus on a single clock for 10 minutes. And that's enough time for me to walk the parents through the house. It's enough time for the kid to be distracted, but just in case they're not, here's a little stress ball for them to play with. You've taken it that one step further that really makes a difference for you in this home buying and home selling process, which is remarkable.
Totally.
Like how incredibly awesome.
It's like, you know what I mean? It's being interested versus interesting. It's always kind of what's in it for me. And when you walk into an interview or you're meeting a total new families, you want to use as much tools as possible to really put them at ease. Not just to connect, but how can I put them at ease? How can I assure them so they could trust that our process is going to be second to none, is going to get them from point A to point B? I totally understand what a behavior is. I totally understand how to minimize a tantrum from happening. And I totally understand that if it does happen, hey, this is how we're going to deal with it. And in a blink of an eye, it's just like as if never happened. So to me, that's the advantage. That's the edge that I hold as well. And when I share that with families, they're like more than just at ease. I tell you, I went one time to to present to a client, a family, and the first comment I got is like, you don't need to share with me what you want to do. I'm already sold on you. And to me is that buy-in right away. It's just so rewarding, and it gives that confidence again. You boost that confidence to going back to like, hey, this is a unique selling proposition. This is what it's all about. When you put others first ahead of anything that is important to you, that will really accelerate your success in this business.
Yeah, that's an awesome point. And I think that really kind of leads into to my next question is, I mean, you've been able to develop your niche on your own personal experience.
It
But once you
hasn't been
got
easy. Trust me, it has not been
yeah,
easy.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Once you got into it though, and you started developing it, did you start noticing within maybe the real estate industry in general that specifically for special needs families, there were maybe some systematic issues in helping them find a home?
Well, let's take it further, a little bit further at a bigger scale. Is some of the struggles or the obstacles that I could share is a lot of rejections in the beginning, and you cannot market to a protected class. And and the minute I heard that, I'm like, yes, bring it on. Because I want to bring the notion that what, families with special needs, caregivers in the United States, there are like over 35 million caregivers in the United States as we speak. That's probably a lot
Wow.
more now because I'm going back to 2019 data, according to the CDC and the NIH. But to me, is why impose such an obstacle to families that are looking for resources? And I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
here to be of a source, of a resource to provide solution to a horrific problems that a lot of families have. When you talk with families with special needs, we all move. On the average, Americans move every 7 years. Why is that? Because the children's grow, their needs grow as well, and then that demands more space. And then all of a sudden, they're teenagers and they've got friends coming over. What used to be a story and a half now is a two-story. So there is that notion there that people will buy and sell at least 3-4 times in their lifetime. To us, families with special needs, it's a scary process. Why? Because it's overwhelming. It's so complex. When you take a deep dive into it, I don't want to move a county because I don't want to lose my waiver money that I get from the county. I don't want to move because I don't want to lose my space for my kids in that school because that's the only school that serves their needs. So when you start pulling all the different resources and you say, okay, this is what we're going to do, you're not going to lose your money. There are other opportunities for schools as well. And I'm going to take you through that process. So it's just like taking it again from being such a complex to really manageable. And we could just work through the process to make it happen. So some of these obstacles, some of these struggles I kind of faced early on, and it was just an opportunity. It's like from every crisis, there's always opportunities. And that was an easy way for me to really tackle those obstacles. But the biggest one was you can't market to a special need families. Well, watch me. And 7 years later, I'm still doing it. And it's been just amazing experience.
I mean, and just it's amazing again to just see how far you've been able to take it and to connect with people. And let's just kind of start talking about how you managed to start marketing to special needs families. So one, you were told you couldn't do it. Obviously, we've proved them wrong.
Right.
So how'd you get your foot in the door? How did you start saying, like, I'm the man to come to with anyone, if you have a special needs child and you're thinking about moving, I'm your go-to. Like, come to me. I'm going to help you from A to Z. We're going to figure it out. We're going to find the resources. I've got resources to send to you. We're going to make this an easy and smooth process for you.
It started being a parent. It started being a dad. So I kind of followed where my child went. Okay. So way back then, we had him in a service center for about 5 years. And then I had just lost my job. So I was on unemployment benefits, and it was an opportunity for me to drop him off and pick him up. And I came into the center and I said, I'd like to really overlap with my son. And they're like, well, Mr. Farah, it's kind of like against HIPAA rules because, you can't overlap while we're working with your child. And so I kind of stayed consistent on it and persistent for that matter until I said, you know what, it just makes sense. He's here with you guys for 8 hours and he's with us at home for the other 16 hours. So logic would say if he's here 8 and he's at home double that time, then it's an opportunity for me to understand how you work with him so I could help you help him. And then I'll be implementing that same tactics that you work with him at home. So he comes in the next day and then he's able to really progress. So in a way, help me help you type of approach. So they took it to managements, and then it came back and they said, you know what, you've got a valid case. We're just gonna make a 1 hour overlap mandatory for all parents that have children in the service center. Some did not like my approach, some loved it, but it was an opportunity for me to say, okay, now I need to follow where my son goes. So I took the dad approach to say, okay, if he's once he moved to elementary school, then I joined the board and I'm a real estate agent now, and I became a co-chair of the facility committee. And then we came with the opportunities that we need to build a new school because the building that we were in, it was not sustainable for many obvious reasons. And we put together an effort, and a few years later, guess what? We have a new school. He graduated from the elementary school and then moved on to the middle into high school. And I joined the foundation board of that school as well. So I started wherever he went, I kind of followed his steps as a dad. And then it was kind of a smooth transition for me to say, hey, this is what I do for a living. So in 2018, that's when I introduced the first storybook. The second storybook was introduced in 2021 during the pandemic. And the third storybook obviously will be introduced this fall. But the transitioning from being a dad to a specialty real estate agent was very smooth at that point. So to me, how do I take it to the next level? That's, having done some volunteering at these school boards and whatnot, it was an opportunity for me to say, okay, now I need to sponsor their events. Now I started getting the word out there on social media that, hey, I want to sponsor your 5K for autism during April months. I want to, be at the puzzle competition for the Autism Society of Minnesota at the Mall of America in the fall, and among other sponsorship. And I started supporting these organizations by providing, these puzzles, these stressors, water balls, giving away some of these storybooks just to get the word out there. So to me, it was a combination of being a dad and being a specialty realtor. And I was able to merge the two to just get my name and niche out there in the market.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think one of the greatest points you just made is that marketing yourself goes beyond just saying, I am this particular type of realtor, but actually putting yourself in organizations and in events and in other spaces that support your niche. I mean, going out to different organizations and sponsoring different events and saying, this is a cause that I want to support, and I just so happen to be a realtor as well, right? I think that's such an amazing approach to take, because genuinely that shows, one, your passion behind it is, I'm not just saying it to say it. I'm not just saying I'm here to help you as a special needs parent. It's no, I genuinely believe in this cause. I support all these different organizations. I've taken the time to really educate myself and go that next step. I want to help you with all the resources. Oh, and by the way, if you do need help moving, I know the proper steps to take. I know how to make it as unstressful as possible for you and your family. And so going beyond marketing and marketing your niche and getting your foot in the door and getting out there goes past simply just posting on social media saying, oh, I'm a first-time home buyer. Oh, I'm a specialty.
There's so many of them out
realtor
there
in this particular area.
So many of them out there. Again, it's being interested first, then interesting next. Okay. And it follows, and then it adds, and then seeing a gap. And here's a good one. I don't know if I shared that with you, but seeing a gap in the special education, those special educators that go in and day out and put in every efforts to work with our kiddos, and to see their turnover, to see them burn out. I came up with Honor Thou Educators Day, and that's usually once or twice a year, during their professional day developments for these two schools where my son went. So I honor them on their day. I cater food for them. And then we do a drawing for gifts. Everybody wins. And then I'm not there to pitch any real estate. I'm there to just honor their day, to say you're not alone, to just give them that extra boost from a parent that has gone through that journey and continues at a different level right now, but at least still acknowledge their day in and day out efforts with our kids. And to me, that has been so rewarding as well. Again, it just puts the stamp on being interested in others versus interesting, because you know what? I believe in
Right.
karma. What goes around comes around. But God is always going to work in a miraculous way. But to me, is how can I really appreciate others and what they're doing? It's very, very challenging what they do on a daily basis. And to me, just doing that simple gesture has really put my name out there as well.
Yeah. And also, too, again, you're just bringing up amazing and interesting points left and right. There's so much to digest. But the fact of hosting an event where you don't talk real estate speaks such in high regard to the fact of you genuinely care. Because I think there is this misconception that real estate agents are always just out there to push themselves to make the next sale. And that's not always the case. If you genuinely believe in what you're doing and you genuinely believe in the people you're trying to help, then you are out there putting your face in front of these organizations and trying to learn and educate and be better in your industry through these other causes without simply selling real estate. And so that's just an amazing point you brought up, is that you've got this day dedicated where you don't even bring it up. It's not even part of the forefront of your mind that you're selling real estate. It's no, this is a cause dedicated to, celebrating educators in the special needs industry. And I think it just shows, again, that passion and the being interested and then be interesting that you've been speaking to. And so that's something I think a valuable point that people can take away with is your niche goes beyond just the real estate industry, but it helps you a lot in the real estate industry. And that kind of leads into one of my next questions that I want to debunk. So this is a myth that I think the audience would love to kind of hear. Yeah. Not kind of hear, they would absolutely love to hear. And what percentage is your niche of your market? So for instance, is the special needs families, is your niche a majority of your clientele?
That's a great question. It's been growing year after year, but the last couple of years has been 20% of my business. Okay. But I want to make a point that is, I think, more profound, is that, and maybe you can test it when you're out there and ask people, and ask anybody, total stranger, hey, do you know anybody, or do you have a son or a daughter with special needs? They're like, no, I don't. And then the follow-up questions should be, well, do you know anyone that has a special needs son and daughter? Their hands is going to go up. I recently joined a Rotary Club in my town, and I was invited to speak about my mission. And I asked, that's how I kind of led the presentation. And I asked, how many of us, including me, have a son with special needs? It was my hand and another person in the audience. And we're talking about 30, 35 Rotarians in the room. And then the follow-up question was, how many of us, including me, know of someone who has a special needs son or daughter? 90% of the hands went up. 1 in 3 person right now, 1 in 3 knows of someone who has a special needs. So to me, it's an opportunity. It's a market that is well underserved, and which I think it's a good segue to get into, like, why and where I'm taking my business, so I could really not clone myself. It's not a proper terminology to use that, but how can I really spread the wealth of knowledge by creating a business entity out of this unique niche? And I think that's where I'm going next, hopefully in the next couple of years. But it's opportunity to be called. It's sitting on a table right now for a lot of us to really go after, for sure.
Yeah. And I think that's a great statistic that you brought up, that not everyone has a child with special needs, but odds are is you do know a family that does, right? And I think that's probably something that you can speak to that's really helped you to put your foot out there and get your face out there when it comes to selling real estate. But how has that also helped you gain a clientele outside of simply just special needs families? How is developing a niche expanded your audience and expanded your clientele?
Validation and credibility. 2 words, validation and credibility. And the way I transition that is when I sit down with a neurotypical buyer or seller, I still say what I specialize in. And their minds right away takes them into, oh my God, if this guy is so patient and so aggressive and so consistent to work with families with special needs because they're going to require a lot of his time and energy, our process is probably going to be a breathe. And chances are when I have that conversation with them, they're like, we're excited. We want to be part of your success and we want to help, provide or support your mission. But they always go back to say, oh my God, my cousin or my nephew or my niece. And it's like, to me, I'm breaking the ice slowly but surely by reaching out to others, because through the neurotypical, I'm able to get to other potential clients as well. So to me, it's been an easy transition for me because yes, I could do everything that anybody does in my profession. I could do an open house. We could market the heck out of it. We could do a radio ad. We could do a TV ad. We could do a flyer, a postcard. We could do every marketing tactics that you can think of. And I could do this. And that's where they lean back and they're like, oh my God, you are quite the guy. And again, I'm interested in what they want. I'm always available to provide what's important for them. Those are questions that we ask because we definitely want to tailor our activities to match what they want from us. And I also add that twist. And I've been just getting that feedback that patience has been just a wonderful kind of, it is a virtue, but it's been quite the tool for me to say that I have a lot of it. And I always find a way to say, okay, what's an alternative? What's another solution? Because that's what we get hired to do, is to solve a problem for these folks. So anybody and everybody always has a problem. They want somebody else to solve it. And we get paid to do that.
Yeah. How awesome. And then how do you, along this topic as well, does your process differ between your niche clientele and then all of your other clientele? So you've spoken on it a bit about how you still introduce yourself as an agent who specializes with special needs families. But when it comes to the actual process of, helping buyers, helping sellers, does anything change between the two parties?
Not really, because I use the same tactics. It's a total collaboration. It's a team effort. So whenever we get hired to really help sellers or buyers, they become part of the team. So to me, communication is important, is critical, and it's part of the process. So on a weekly basis, our clients get either a text or preferably they get a video text from me about the process and where we are so far. So it's an opportunity for me to connect with them face to face if I can't get through them over the phone. But to me, I have found a better opening, a better reception when I send a quick video with an update on the file and where we are in the process. And I always get a response back. That's appreciated. I know they're busy, but I also know that whatever I'm going to say is really important for them as well. So to me, is as important to the families with special needs, because guess what? Then the kids connect with me. And then when I play that video or when I record that video, I'm including the family. And then the kids build that trust with me again, because they see me bring in the storybooks, the fidgets, the sensory baskets. They remember, they have tremendous memory. And then when they continuously see me on that video text, again, it brings back that trust factor that, we've got a third party person that's really handling this transition for us. And it's just so easy. To me, it's a total collaboration effort, that carries me through every process, regardless whether I'm dealing with a family with special needs or neurotypical clients. And I think communication is a lot of times, we have a lot of agents out there don't pick up their phones. So to me, it's an opportunity to have a conversation to say, how can I help? Because chances are they're calling me for a reason and I better pick up and answer.
Yeah. How did you discover that that of sending a video text versus maybe FaceTiming or just sending a standard text? What, I guess, inspired you to start sending a video text message as a text message? And then how did you decide that that was like your best way of communication?
Well, because I wanted to really maintain that level of confidence in our services, right? And what better way to do it than with a voice and a face at the same time? A lot of times people can read over the phone if you're excited through your voice tone and how fast you go. And if you repeat yourself, if you mirror the other side as well, that provides confidence. But adding the aspect of the facial expressions, I think that goes a long way. I tried it honestly, and it went well. And to me, as I love doing videos, a lot of times I do live videos, but I also record some and post them on social media. It's an opportunity to connect with people. But it's when I tried it and I started getting the feedback from the families, from the kids, and it just became a no-brainer. And it's part of our trademarks right now that we communicate on a weekly basis, whether it's a text, phone, or a video text, but the video text seemed to really hit home with everybody that we've been conversing with. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I love how that, again, is another piece to this toolkit we discussed a little bit earlier with the books and with the sensory gift basket is you get video text. You don't just get a text message, but you get a video text that can also be shared with your kids so that they're actually putting a face to the voice. And so that when they see you in person and they come along with with the showings and all of that, they recognize who you are. And then again, it helps break that wall down a little bit and give them that sense of being comfortable with you to help, again, back up the fact that you're trying to ease this process for them. And so I love how, honestly, just thoughtful every single thing you have in your process is. I mean, it is so well thought out when how you've developed your niche and how you've developed how you market yourself and how you've created this process and this experience for not just your niche clients, but really for everyone, because just like you said, your process doesn't change on your clients. Obviously, it tailors depending on what they're looking for and what they're expecting, but the experience you're providing is the same. And so I think that's a huge takeaway for everyone listening is what experience are they providing? What honestly, tangibly, can your clients be walking away with? Is it a sensory basket? Is it a book to ease the child? Is it a video message? What are those things that people can tangibly walk away with and look back on and remember that experience? So that's something that is really valuable. So just kudos to you for really taking the time and establishing that and creating that.
We're selling a lifestyle, Rachel, and when you understand the complexity and the lifestyle that some of these families are living, it goes without saying. So to me, we haven't even unpacked the buying process and the selling process and what those steps involved. And I believe that's going to be on another episode if you choose to. But to me, it's a lifestyle that we're selling, and the lifestyle of ease, the lifestyle of calm, the lifestyle of, oh my God, I found somebody that really gets my problem, gets me, walks in my shoes. I wear the socks with my trademarks, with the puzzle piece all over. Whenever I go to appointments, I've got the pin of the missing piece. I bought a cargo van and I've got nothing but puzzle pieces around it. I don't have the consequence that, buy or sell with Tony and use this van for free. My theme on it says, every move is special, because really every move is special. And then we take a deep dive into understanding what's important for them and really share with them when we go out to see houses, what are we looking for besides the brick and mortar? And where we're selling a property, what are we looking at as far as transitioning process goes, as far as really making sure that whatever is important to the child, to the children, is implemented moving forward to the other properties. So there's a lot to unpack there, but definitely it's a unique lifestyle that we're selling. So.
Yeah, how incredible. That's fantastic. Well, I've got just a couple of questions left because we're running out of time. So yes, I agree. We're going to have another episode to unpack everything else because there's so much to discuss. But I want listeners to walk away with how developing their niche and their unique selling proposition is really only the beginning. And so how is developing and tailoring and figuring out what your process and that experience looks like, how developing your unique selling proposition to special needs families has helped you to really excel in your real estate career, or maybe in other areas of your business, and how has it opened more doors for you by streamlining down to a particular clientele?
It's a great question, and I often really think about it. I call it the degree of separation, right? So there's wonderful agents out there in the Twin Cities, nationwide. It's amazing when I attend conferences, I take the puzzle piece along with me and then I share the songs. And I talk to top producers around the nations. And it's an opportunity for me to say, hey, if you ever are working with a family with special needs, just pick up the phone, call me. I'll share with you a few tactics, a few strategies. And they lean back and they're like, wow, you're just like a godsend. And I'm like, no, I'm not. That's the degree of separation. We're in the service industry. We provide solutions to families. And to me, I'm so grateful, humbly saying it, that it's quite the calling, right? It's a vocation, sometimes even referred to. So to me, it's a degree of separation. And you need to have a unique selling proposition, in order to really set yourself apart from others, regardless what it is, right? So kind of do a soul search like I did, and you'll figure out what you're good at and what separates you from me. What separates you from other people and other agents in the industry, and go and run with it. You may have to take some risk. You may stumble along the way, but just keep working at it. It's that persistence that got me here. And quite honestly, there's more to come as well. So it doesn't stop here. To me, is like the third storybook. It's like the icing on the cake. And I'm super excited just to talk about the safety, right? Housing safety. How important is that? We all know change is difficult. We all know everybody perceives it differently. Everybody reacts to change differently. But how do we just minimize it? How do we minimize the tantrums, the aggressions against themselves, against the property, against other people? And that's really the degree of separation that I'm talking about. It's bringing firsthand experience and not really be ashamed, not really be embarrassed to share it, because to me, it's an opportunity to share what worked with us, what didn't work with us, and then kind of both ways, help me kind of help you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, Tony, where can our audience connect with you? Where can they find you? Where can they find your storybooks that you've created? When does your third one come out?
Oh my goodness, there's a lot to unpack there. I tell you, I'm all over social media, on Instagram, Facebook, on LinkedIn, Twitter, and TikTok. The best way to probably is just to use Google my business page. That's probably the best way to find me and to connect with all my contact information. My website is tonyfarah.com, all spelled out. And then that's where you can find access to my storybooks. The third storybook is coming hopefully in the fall, and I'm looking to do kind of like a serious offering, probably around the holiday times, and really spread that awareness out there, promoting, inclusion. And I'm super excited where the future is going. We talked earlier on our call about what is my end goal. Honestly, is if I can empower other authentic agents like myself to do what I do, I think that's the legacy I want to leave behind. So for any of your listeners or your viewers, if you know anyone that is out there contemplating whether they should do what I've done the last 6-7 years and still do, please reach out to me. I'd love to help you. Can kind of set you up on a scale, or maybe on a set of successful steps to get you to where I am, so you're not having to go through the obstacles and hurdles that I've gone through. It's important to really embrace that community needs out there, because God knows how much it needs support. So,
yeah. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Tony. I appreciate your time. I appreciate all the value that you've literally been able to provide in this last almost hour. Holy crap. Like, wow, where'd the hour go?
I know, right? Where did that time go?
But I do want to I know. It flew by. Like I said, we're going to have to get another episode out to just keep unpacking more because there were so many nuggets that we could just continue diving deeper into. But I do want to throw out for any of our listeners out there that we do have a special promo code for you. If you want to receive 15% off your first shoot with Virtuance to get beautiful photos for your next listing, you can use Tony0825. Again, that is Tony, Tony 0825 for 15% off your first shoot with Virtuance. Tony, thank you again for joining us. You've provided so much value, I know, to all of our listeners today. So I'm so excited for everyone to just hear and absorb and listen to this episode. So thank you for joining us. And thank you, everyone who listened.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thanks for listening to Curb Appeal. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow along on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. This podcast is brought to you by Virtuance. Whether you market one listing a year or thousands, Virtuance is your go-to real estate photographer for consistent, magazine-quality images that are scientifically proven to get results. For more episodes of Curb Appeal, please visit virtuance.com/podcast.